Good afternoon and welcome to Conversations with Masters. This is a one-part series. I wanted to look and make sure I put the recording on, where the Masters will be discussing the topic of focus, or more specifically, focusing into reality. Everyone on the call is an enlightened master who agreed to participate in this conversation and share their wisdom and experiences around this topic of focus. Our intention with these conversations is to look at these topics from a higher perspective. Please seek out these masters participating in these Conversations with Master series. They all have unique gifts and most offer special services. Please look them up so you may learn more about their gifts and what they have to offer. They are identified, including their websites, in the comment section below. So as I stated, today we'll be talking about focus, or more specifically, focusing into reality. So focus is such a vague word. Sort of vague over word used, I think. We've heard it all our life. Yeah, you need to focus, right? So what does it mean, and what does it specifically mean in this context? So I was curious about this word, and I did something I don't normally do, but I looked up, I was curious of the definitive meaning, so I did a search for the definition, and it's interesting what it said. So I'm going to read it. It says, of a person are their eyes, and then it says, adapt to the prevailing level of light and become able to see clearly. So it's interesting that even from a human definition of focus, it points us to the level of light. Of course, from a spiritual perspective, we are the light and we look to the light and we give things to the light. So there's kind of no coincidences even when it comes to our human definitions and how we use them spiritually. I think focus is the first step to consciousness. I also think that we're easily distracted. And even when we want to manifest, we need to focus first. So how does one focus? What does it mean to you all to focus? So fellow masters, what is your perspective on focus? How do we focus? What is it? And why is it important?
Well, I will start with an introductory level of focus. And as I mentioned earlier, I said, is there a part of focus that's synonymous with awareness? So just thinking about that, because you do have to focus to be aware. And so the story, I had the tree trimmers next door. They're actually on my neighbor's property, but they want to cut trims. The trees are on my property, but they're doing the work for my neighbor. And so I was out there and I thought, I would like, because they're putting them through the grinder, these logs. And I said, I think I will request some logs for my outdoor fireplace. So I asked them if they could help me out and just throw the logs over for me. But what the gist of the story, the point of the story was the awareness, because even though we were talking, and even though there was an agreement, and even though there was communication in words, I was aware of the energy. So I was aware of the attitude and sort of like the working and maybe the pressure, just whatever would influence these people and what they had to do. So I walked away from it very grateful for the awareness, because I walked away and I said, okay, we'll just see what happens. Maybe, there's an option that this will work out, and there's an option not, or there's an option for some part of it will work out. And I realized that I reached that conclusion during my awareness, and it just made things very clear, because if you only went on the conversation or words alone, you would have reached a different conclusion. You would have assumed, they said yes, and they're going to do, they're going to do this. So that's, to me, as one power of awareness, to be able to kind of do an energetic reading or take in everything that's going on. And to me, it gives you more clarity. To realize what's going on. Whereas if I hadn't have been aware, if it was just literal what someone told me, my expectation could have been something else. And then the second part, if we go to focus, to me, the most powerful, I just said it, to me, is not focus in our spirituality the same? Is that not our power? Focus is our power. And then lately, what I've been trying to use focus as a generator to generate, anything that I so desire, but not generate it externally, generate it internally, generate the state of being. And that requires focus.
So what we focus on, does that become our reality?
I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean,
Focus
we
on.
want it to become a reality, and the focus is, to me, is so important. Just what my experience is to get centered, and the centered is, the recommendation of the 3 breaths. But to me, that I can be in stillness and let whatever thoughts creep in from the outer world for the moment and let them flow through and stay in stillness allows me to do my focus. So if I can get that kind of meditative state where I really feel the centeredness inside of me, and I really feel this connection, and in a sense, even to the quantum field, in a sense, into this stillness, then I can begin to have much more power in terms of where my focus goes at that point. But if my focus is brought together by my mind and not by my heart, I find it doesn't produce the results, because my mind scatters and jumps a million places. That's why I don't know the answer. It's from the heart that the focus has to be.
And that's an interesting point, from the heart. Go ahead, Blissa.
So focus is something that I use. It's actually a part of a NIA class. Every NIA class, and I'm a NIA instructor, which is a conscious stance fitness type of experience. And we have a focus and an intention for every class. And so the focus it's like a place where we continuously put our attention. And then the intent is like the fire that ignites it. And why I said yes when you posed that question just a moment ago is that wherever I'm putting my awareness, like Sharon had said, in the now moment, that is basically creating my reality in the now moment, which is all we really have. So if I, like, for instance, I just finished teaching a class where we focused in the base of the body with the intent to embody from underneath and behind. So the whole time we're dancing and we're having an experience, and we're also really sensing the whole time, as I keep bringing the base of the body, the way that the body's connecting with the earth, the power and the support that comes from under and behind. And then that actually is forming our reality in those now moments that we're experiencing. Just as in meditation, the stillness or the direction of, the way that you want to bring your meditation would be a focus. I feel that focus is like, well, for one, I think it's really important in my life. And I brought it from NIA because I started teaching in 2005. So I brought the focus into my life and found it to be super supportive in keeping me checked in to what, like, say, I would do a weekly focus. I would say, this week I'm really focusing in awareness around how I connect with people in my life, like how present I am. And then keep reminding, like, it's like a little thing, like to remind myself, how present are you being? How present are you being? So that's kind of how I use the focus. Like in a class, I'll use it the whole hour. It would come up in all the ways that it comes up as a support system or a like infrastructure toward what I want to create, like you were saying with the manifestation.
So it's almost like you become a master at focusing, haven't you? Through this practice over and over again of doing this.
I've done it a lot. I started teaching in 2005, and I taught 15 years straight, 3 to 5 times a week. And then I had a year where I was teaching more like 2 or 3 times a week, and then 2 years where I didn't teach, and now I'm coming back to it. So I don't know if that's what it makes, but it's very much integrated into my life. It's a very important part of my life. Focus. Like when you said it was I was like, oh, okay, this one. I know this.
You know this. It's interesting because when Troy was talking about too, I got this visual of like, not that I would use a gun thing, but a shotgun versus a rifle. So when you're focused, you're more in that one point where when there's, and it's just the easiest analogy I can think of when there's like one thing and a spread of things. So when you're not focused and you have all these little dots of stuff going on around you, how does that create? I mean, how can you bring that into consciousness? What you will, if you even want to experience joy in that moment, and you've got all this diffused awareness going on with a million different points out there, it's kind of hard to focus on bringing in that one thing.
Well, Troy gave us a great example of extremely powerful tool of focus, which is the 3 breaths. Mm-hmm. And with that 3rd breath, that's when you choose the focus. Like you go, it's like breathe, 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 and choose. Mm-hmm. Simple.
Yeah, that's such a great tool.
So good.
Dawn, I think you were going to share something about something from the council that you had, an excerpt that you wanted to share about focus that I think maybe is appropriate at this time.
Well, just one of the things that they had said in their last call was about focusing on joy and the manifesting from that and how perfect that is. And when Blissa was talking, it came into me that when you focus on what you want and you focus on the story you want, that's how you're creating your realities and your grand manifestation and the joy in your life. But Troy and Blissa and Sharon, I totally agree with you. Have to be in the now. That is the only time you can really focus. Keep your heart in the now and focus in the now.
So I was sharing this earlier. I was actually on a call with Blissa and Troy on something else earlier today, and we were talking about how much, or I think I said this, how much easier sometimes it is to focus when you have a group of people, or you have someone else that you're focusing with. So yes, we are masters and we're working on this and we're expanding on this and raising our vibration to do this. But I know for me, a lot of times, like right now, we're talking about the subject focus. So we're spending this 45 minutes talking about focus. So that's where our focus is. And we'll probably raise our ability to focus even after this. But even when let's say you're having, you're seeking out another spiritual, you're seeking a spiritual leader or guide, or someone else that you know that's also like one of the people, the masters here, and you're seeking that out, and you're able to, I think, like when you're joined together with at least one other person, you're able to even bring your focus to a higher level. And I think that's important to not undervalue the benefit of doing that. I know the Bible's been quoted when it says, when 2 or more together. That's what made me think about that. When 2 or more together, in the light, right?
I say that like in the NIA classes, you know, we are being focused, and there's an accountability piece when we're with a group. Mm-hmm. And I love that. Like these groups that we have, that we're coming together, for me, that like dials in that accountability, which I love. And it really supports my journey and my focus. Like if we, you know, coming together and having the focus of focus, or having the focus of receiving, or really looking at how we age as masters and how we're transforming that journey and the definitions around it. Those things are supportive to when we step out of the call.
Mhm.
But when I'm with the group, in the NIA format, but here is like, right, we're together. There's wherever two or more are gathered, we're so much more potent, and we can take this energy and do something with it that is for the greatest good. And I love that aspect. I love the aspect of this group and our Power of 11 groups, Power of 8 groups, NIA classes, whatever it is. Maybe it's a Sangha where you come together and meditate. You can feel that, when we come together with a common focus or intention, it's really powerful.
And I know I can feel that. I can feel that, okay, this word focus, which can be sort of vague. When we're together and we're focusing, I physically feel my energy levels and my vibration level go up so much higher and that's focus, right? So that's how we focus into reality, how we focus into creation, how we get into consciousness.
That reminded me of your definition that you looked up of focusing, adapting to the prevailing level of light. And I think that is very evident because all of our lights are much brighter when we are focused together.
Sandy, I might add something to this wonderful topic on focusing. I think it's one of the most important stages right before manifestation. So this is probably the bridge to our manifestations, to focus on our desires or dreams or our thoughts. I have thought about that, focusing, and there are three main questions came to my mind. The first one, what to focus on? What am I focused on? So let's think about that one for a second. So I have a desire to manifest. So I just want to make sure that I don't limit the universe when I'm focusing on something. So there's an affirmation that I would like to share with you at this moment. I am open for the divine to manifest things in my life in a way that's even better than I can imagine. So when you focus on something, it's always to leave a door for source to maybe come up with something better for you. Let's not limit the universe when we are focusing, because the grander perspective might have something better for you and for the other souls. And secondly, how to focus. Okay, I know the importance of focusing on my thoughts and on my desires to manifest, but how am I gonna focus? Okay, so like Troy mentioned that taking 3 deep breaths. The first one is about take 5 seconds through our nose and hold it and exhale. And the second one, and inhale about 5 seconds, hold it and exhale. And the third one, inhale and hold it and exhale. And then imagine a beautiful light coming through from your crown chakra, coming down through your third eye chakra, coming through your throat chakra, and then coming down through your heart chakra. Okay, now this is the time to manifest. Imagine a full moon or a bright sun is shining in your heart. So this is the time to manifest. This is how to manifest. And my third question was when to focus. Okay, this is the time to focus. The light is in your heart. You're full of love. You see a bright, bright full moon or very bright sun is shining. You imagine that. And you focus on that moon or on that sun. And now visualize what would you like to desire and manifest. Imagine yourself is part of it, filled with love. And it's good for you and good for the rest of us. So everybody benefits of that. So that's why I would like to share it this moment. Thank you.
That was beautiful. Thank you for putting that into very realistic, practical steps for our listeners and to be able to do that. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
And you have such a nice, focused delivery of it too, Ahmet.
Thank you.
And I can
Thank
tell
you.
that you're like so present and you're so focused when you speak. You know, it feels.
Yes, because I'm reflecting your beautiful energy. So
Oh.
that's why it's beautiful.
We reflect each other's, thank goodness.
Yeah, I'll jump in. It's funny because usually I have loads to say about stuff, don't I? But I found this one really interesting. So I think like a few of you, I did actually look it up because I was curious to know what does it really mean? Because I only know like the uses that I have. And I think the word focus, I think you said, didn't you, Sandy? It's been overused or used in so many different ways. So I actually got quite confused. So, but listening to you guys has given me a lot of clarity because originally I'm thinking at school, you know, the teachers would say to you, focus, and it means concentrate. So I was equating it with something that I perhaps didn't want to concentrate on, or perhaps something that took effort to focus. So then I had the question to myself, well, is it not then the opposite of going with the flow? Because going with the flow, I think, is a spiritual quality, right? And I try and go with the flow, which I thought was a little bit opposite of focusing, you know. But then you gave the definition about, I mean, with the camera, if you're putting it in focus, you're making it clearer. And that is a different meaning, is it not? If you focus on something, you're giving it clarity. So you've kind of got different meanings going on there. But of course, the way we're using it, or the way Blissa was using it in her classes, you know, is where do you put your attention? Where do you put your consciousness? So this is why we're talking about manifesting with it, because we know that we manifest where we put our consciousness and where we put our attention. So I was then thinking, well, I don't know if I focus. I don't know if I should focus or if it's good that I don't focus. I started getting very confused. So then I thought, well, what do we focus on? But if you were going to talk to me like, now I've just bought this new place and it's got a garden, which is nothing but mud, and I'm going to create the garden retreat. So if anyone, you know, if I was going to use the word focus, I would say, well, at the moment, I'm focusing on the garden. You know, I'm focusing on the garden. That's my project. That's where my attention is going. But I'm not concentrating. I don't have a plan. I'm going with the flow. So, and it's like Ahmed said, you don't want to limit anything. So I'm just like, you know, basically, like I've said before, I'm ready and willing to fulfill my potential and just being open to ideas. And when the ideas come, then I carry them out. So I guess there is an element of focusing on that, isn't it? But then, so what to focus on? If you're focused, like this is like what Troy said, if you're the two minds, if you're focusing on something from the heart, or if you're focusing on something, maybe I misunderstood you, I don't know, but something from the mind, it's like, it's back to that school. You have to focus, no, if I'm following my heart, then I will be focusing with no effort. It will be choiceless and effortless and joyful. So focus is a natural process. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect
If you're
sense.
following your heart.
Mhm.
So then I went through all that, and then you were talking about in the group, staying in the now, like Dawn said, you have to be in the now. That's the whole point of everything, right? So, and then you were talking about groups, and I have to agree with you. And I love the groups, obviously this and everything else. And this week or the week past, my good friend, she started doing what she's calling satsang, which is a Sanskrit word, and it means together in truth. Blissa's nodding, she's heard of it, right? So she started this satsang group, and we didn't really know what was going to happen. And I literally went with no focus, I want to say. I went with no focus whatsoever. And she played some scriptures, and nobody even discussed them, right? But we were all together with the same intention and that same power. And there was a number of us, definitely me, cried like a baby and shifted some trauma. I mean, literally just like that. And I'm not even sure that I was focusing, but I got clarity. It was the focus, the definition where you said to make clear. So I wasn't intentionally focusing, as in putting my attention, putting my consciousness. I wasn't doing any of that. But just by being there, I was given clarity over something. And my bottom lip went when I realized it was basically that trauma, all of our trauma is just a story that we can drop. And I was just like, oh my God. I cried because I realized that all this trauma I could drop, So there was clarity. So that means there was focus, right? So I think what I'm saying is and I don't think I'm saying anything. I think I'm asking. I think I'm asking the question to you, masters. Was I focusing? Where was the focus?
Well,
I was in the now, but
I'm going to have Troy
Right.
answer, but I do want to say I love that there's a distinction between having an agenda ahead of time and preparing that's what you're going to focus on, and you being in the moment and you focusing. So I think you were focusing, but there's a distinction. Focus doesn't mean, oh, before I get there, I'm going to focus on what I want to have happen. So I think it's a distinction. And then after Troy, I want to say something about that rebellion against concentrating and focusing, because I think that's important. Yeah, go ahead, Troy.
Thank you, Deborah, for what you shared, because it then came clearer to me. Focusing in this context is literally opening our heart to flow. It's not an intention to zero down, concentrate, make it happen. It's literally opening our heart to the flow. That is the focus, because that's where, with our imagination, we can go anywhere with no preconceived ideas of where that goes, because then we're in that openness, receiving, allowing experience of letting light flow through us. Whereas the way the world uses the word focus means knock out everything, focus on, and we thereby limit the very capacity of what we can do. And it goes back to what I said, and I honestly said at the beginning, when I'm like that, I don't think I'm creating anything. I've got this laser, I may be getting tasks done, but am I really creating? Not really. It's my head really making things happen, which doesn't bring much joy to me as it does when I'm opening my heart to the flow and have no preconceived notion of where it's going.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Troy. And there was a comment, sorry. Sorry.
I was just saying, like yeah.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was just saying, like Ahmet said, no limitations. Please go ahead, Deborah. Sorry.
No. Yes, exactly. Like Ahmed said, there's no limitations. And one of the first things I wrote when focus came down, and I must have been shouted at by teachers with that word, because it has got perhaps a negative connotation to me. And I actually put the first note I put was, is it not easier not to focus? And I literally asked, is it not easier not to focus? Because like Dawn says, we're in the now. And like you're saying, Troy, there's something expansive about not focusing and being open to, because with focus, I've got this idea of should, you should do it, you know? So I don't know, it could be my own interpretation of it, but Troy, I love what you said. I love it.
Yeah, I
Oh,
love it.
thank you. You
I
helped
wanna-
me get it clear.
Yeah, Troy elevated
Wow.
it for us.
Ditto.
But
But Troy,
he
I want to
definitely,
say just quickly about that. What Troy said, it's like if the focus is like the infrastructure that allows for us to open and really explore and let that flow through. Like it's like an infrastructure or it's where like instead of boxing it down, it like creates this like table for you to set your beautiful flowers and food on and really explore with. Go ahead. I just want to put that in there.
oh, that was beautiful. But I think about, because Deborah, you're exactly right, because I'm the same way. You know, a lot of it, well, most of, you know, focus was almost a bad word. You better focus, you got to focus, you got to focus. And of course, you know, from that old story, what the word means, we're going to have this little rebellion, that little human in us comes up and wants to real. I don't want to focus. You know? So that's like, I go back to the analogy that Ahmet used about the level 1 and taking the elevator up to level 7. So what you guys have talked about, Troy and Ahmet, and Sharon, all of you all, and everyone is talking about level 7, where it's easy to start at that level 1. You know, that level 1 is like, okay, focus is like a bad thing. Like, I got to do it. I should do it. So I think that's perfect that came up for you too, Deborah, this week, because I'm sure that's what a lot of people, their first reaction is when they hear that word. That's why I'm glad that we're having this discussion about this. And I love how beautiful you guys have said what it's like, what it really means. And you get to the level 7 of the focusing, and where it's open to create anything.
Right. Open to all the possibilities.
Yeah.
So the focus is the opposite of what we think focus is. It's the opening to all the possibilities, just dancing into the quantum field. And it just bursts open.
Ooh, I felt that.
When you were talking, Troy, about focusing in it, just being on a task, or I envisioned the blinders on a horse, you know, going down the path. But are they having any fun? Heck no. Take those blinders off so that they can focus on whatever they want to focus.
Or experience it and allow what's going on in that moment.
Mhm.
Because that's
360,
focus, right? Yeah.
not 20 degrees, 360 or 180 or whatever.
Yeah, it's not the pinpoint.
Absolutely.
It's, focusing what's in the present reality in the now moment with your heart, right?
Yeah, your heart.
It's like the focus assists us in being in the present moment. Like, at least the way that I use it, it's like, how can we get really present? Well, we can add something in that's like, oh, I want to be here. I don't need any distractions right now. I want to be here. I want to create in this, like, this is where I am. Like, this is our focus right now, right? And so I don't need to be worried like what she's doing. It doesn't matter, you know, I'm here with you guys. And so it's like, we need that, or I do. For me, it's really helpful. Focus. It doesn't limit as much as expand the possibilities of what can happen here.
Yeah, one of the next series we're going to be doing is going to be on consciousness, like what that means. And I really, Dawn and I were having a little conversation earlier, and I feel like focus is definitely the first step before consciousness. Maybe not. Maybe I may not agree, but that's what I feel like. Like you said, you got to be present, focus to be present.
And it's made me think of something that I do focus on like this. I've forgotten the Sanskrit word for it, but it's a yogic meditation where you basically are focusing on a flame. And but that's what you would say, focus on the flame. I would say stare. I stare at a flame. I don't know if there's a difference. What's the difference between staring at a flame and focusing on it? But it just came to me because it was an example of where you are going like that. However, it's so expansive. So that includes your attention, it includes your consciousness, and you can get through that. It's a type of meditation, of course, so you get some clarity as well. I don't know, it just made me think, because we were going not like this, and then I was thinking, yeah, but hang on a minute, I often focus on a flame, and you should try it, it's really expansive, you know. So I don't know, it's funny, isn't it, when you start thinking about it, you see it from different ways. But
I think that's bringing everything to a point. Instead of all those millions of points around you, you're bringing your awareness and focus into a point, whatever that point is, to then allow. It's not like you're spending 30 minutes just focusing on that flame. It brings you to that point, and then that allows the openness, don't you think, to.
And when you're staring at that flame, you see the light, you see all of the light, you see all the possibilities of the light, and you see all of the light. So it is a focus, but you're seeing everything.
It also, it's interesting, like the language and how we all speak English, although, it's not everyone's first language. We all speak English. And then we have this, the way that we interpret the words. And then we have the connotation that comes with a word like God or focus or, even consciousness. There's like, we have within each one of us, we can have little pieces where we might get triggered by a word, or where we might be really into a word. Or when you talked about, Deborah, when you said stare, I would totally describe that as focus, what you were describing. And staring to me is almost like the way that I would interpret that word. Staring sort of lacks that conscious awareness. So language, we get to play around with that as well. Like what does the word mean? Even though we're all using the same language, we don't necessarily all mean the same thing with certain words. And that comes up a lot, I think.
And then you layer that with our stories, our family stories, our environmental, all the stories around it too. If we add those to what a word means or how we use it.
It definitely, a definition of it is from our stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was really surprised when I actually looked up the definition. I mean, of course, like I said, that word is so overused, and we've heard it a lot. You need to focus on this, focus on that, focus this, bring your focus in, Yeah, and the actual definition was a little bit better. It was different.
It's interesting. I was just thinking about what you're saying, Deborah. When we stare at something, or when we are looking at that flame, or when we are taking those 3 deep breaths, we are bringing ourselves into that point, in a sense. But that point is not designed like in 3D to get us through and make step by step, but that point is designed to then open up into the whole expanse. Mm-hmm. It's not designed to stay there, which is what the world would look at, focus on. You get there and stay there. Mm-hmm. This is designed to open us up with the breathing and with looking at that flame to take in and allow, in a sense, our higher selves to take over, right? Not ever have that human self continuing with that task, but the higher self then opens up to everything.
Yeah, and I love the way you say the world, meaning like, what we were brought up in.
Yeah.
But what we're not listening to anymore. I love it. And also, of course, stare, as Blissa says, I mean, if a young child is staring at somebody, it has a very negative connotation. So it brings us back to intention, which is probably connected to consciousness, which will be the next one. But what you're saying, Troy, is it's the intention, isn't it? So yes, I am staring at a flame, but my intention is so much more than that. Yes. And that's what makes it expansive is my intention, right?
Yes,
So,
back to what Blissa said.
Here we go. Focusing with intention
Focus
is a
on-
completely
It's all the way
different
back to what she
ballgame.
said.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. You know what that made me
Absolutely.
think of when you said stare again? Do you remember? I know I did it as a kid, and you see kids that, they're looking out the window, they're staring out the window, daydreaming, imagining, focusing, creating, and we forget as adults, like that's a good thing. That's a good thing to do, to get in touch with that again. Yeah. So that's.
And thank you, Blissa and Deborah, for mentioning intention. Intention is so powerful. We should express our intentions with the love of our heart, so they become activated and manifest as actions that empower positive unfoldment in our life. So thank you for mentioning intentions.
Yeah.
Very, very important. Thank you. Thank you.
I look at
Yeah.
intention as a heart's desire. That's much
Yeah.
easier than the old intention. I feel intention.
As I said before, it's like the intent is there to ignite the focus. Like it's
Yeah.
like the flame, like it's like where you have the focus and then you like,
Yeah.
Beautifully said.
That's beautiful,
ignite
Blissa.
it.
Beautifully, yeah. Deborah, I think you need to intend and ignite to have Deborah come over from Arkansas over to Spain and help you with your garden, since you see her gardening hat. She's such a
No, Gar.
yeah, exactly.
I'm
Gotta
very
love
fortunate.
that. So we're pretty much at the end of our 45 minutes. So does anybody have any last minute things they want to add on focus?
I was just going to say, you've listed so many examples of how we associate focus with the brain or a mental exercise or something that the brain does. So to focus energy or spirituality, I've added the extra step to where I put the focus and associate it with the body. And I think people have done this a long time. And the one we all know is your focus on your heart to create the feeling of love, loving things or kind things or warm things, to get out of the brain, and get into your heart or your middle area, like security, in your middle area, because that's your stability. So, the safe or this area, your expression. So it's a little extra step to help me with the energetic focus, because it takes the focus off the brain, because it's not the thinking or the brain, it's the feeling. And it seems to be more powerful if you can associate it with other parts of your body, because it kind of locks it into it, gives it a little bit more strength or something, because it stops it from being just a thought.
And I think that's what Blissa was, does a lot with her body stuff. She also has mentioned that the body stuff to incorporate it together. I think that's a perfect reminder that, thank you, Sharon, to incorporate your body. I a lot of times touch. If there's something I want to have my focus on and I associate a body part with it, like the speaking or the heart, I sometimes will touch it to help me bring my focus into it. So thank you for that reminder. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. This was another great call. I look forward to our next series on consciousness. Should be a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.